Hello everyone, amateur meteorologist First Weather here. It is November 23rd, 2020, or 22nd rather, and welcome to my 2020-2021 final winter forecast. And nothing really much has changed. There haven't been any significant changes to speak of, but there have been a few minor tweaks, and I do have some thoughts for the first few weeks of meteorological winter. So, starting off, here is the European Ensemble, or EPS, and its projection for the NAO, the AO, and the PNA. And these three teleconnections really give you a good idea of what's going on in the atmosphere and essentially the state of the weather over the lower 48. And so generally, you want to see a negative AO, a negative NAO, and a positive PNA. The PNA, to the right, has been persistently positive, as you can see right here, or negative, which favors troughing in the west and ridging in the east, which is not good for cold. However, you can see there's some pretty good agreement that this will go rather sharply positive as we head into the first week of December and stay relatively positive until at least the end of the first week. Similarly, the AO, which has been very positive, quite positive, is expected to dip as we go into the first week of December. And same with the NAO, which is expected to once again dip as we head into the first week of December into the negative territory. So that would suggest greater chances of troughing in the east, greater chances for a more amplified pattern, and in general, cooler weather in the eastern part of the country. Now here is the European Ensemble EPS 500 millibar geopotential height for December 3rd, and you can see it's not like a loaded gun pattern in terms of snow for the east, but you can see it is kind of favorable. You have a split flow right here, nicely developed. And then you also have below average heights right here indicating an active southern jet stream, which could help allow the systems to really shoot up the east coast. And with that big ridge over here, that would help slow them down as they go up the east coast. So not at all saying that's going to happen. What I am saying is that the pattern for some inclement weather, especially in the Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast, is going to be generally higher for the first week or so of December. And I think the first 2 weeks of December could be a bit cooler and even potentially significantly below average for the eastern half of the country, with above average chances for wintry weather, which again, if you might recall from my previous winter forecast, is against what I'm predicting. So with that minor tweak, I do think we are going to see some minor or a bit of an increased cool risk as we head into the first 2 weeks of winter, meteorological winter. But I think after that, we should get once again return to that mild pattern that I am forecasting. Similarly with the polar vortex, you can see this is the zonal wind forecast, and you can see it's expected to stay above average and continue above average until at least the 21st and 28th. And then once you reach that time frame, you do have a lot of variation. But again, the polar vortex is strong. This is another map right here showing just how strong it is, staying above average right here. So again, the polar vortex is very strong and it's expected to stay strong. There is some indication that it might try to weaken just a bit into the first 2 weeks of December. Nothing really too concrete. But again, I think the first 2 weeks of December really will be a little bit cooler and wetter on the eastern half of the country before things do finally return to normal. Again, we would need to see a significant sudden stratospheric warming event to really bust this winter forecast, and right now that just does not look likely in the next month or so. So here is my December to March temperature forecast. So I think with the month of December, we are going to have cooler conditions over the eastern part of the country. And so what that will do is that will, I think, maybe dampen the well above average temperature risk I have here. I think for the winter overall, you might end up to above average, but you still have a good chance of ending up well above average. But I think the month of December as a whole might end up just slightly above average for the eastern part of the country, with those first 2 weeks being cooler than average. But regardless, after that, I think once we head into the end of December, into January and February, things will really start to warm up over the Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, Southeast, and Northeast, and start to cool down in the Pacific Northwest. And you'll see right here this band of above average conditions, then slightly above in between the orange and blue, and then slightly below to average in the Pacific Northwest and also the upper Midwest. You might notice these blue dashed lines that I've added. I think that is, or there is a potential that we do see this little cooler area go a little bit further to the south and east, and that's just going to be based on the storm tracks. And I think there is some risk that we do see those cooler conditions shift a bit further to the south and east. So the slightly above would kind of curve back like this, and so would this well above average zone sort of go more like this instead of curving upwards. But right now I think this is the most likely scenario still, but there's about 35-40% chance that we do see this more sort of horizontal orientation of the temperature anomalies this winter. And that would mean more snow and cold for the upper Midwest and also portions of the interior Northeast. Same exact thing for precipitation, below average on the coastlines, above average on the Pacific Northwest and Ohio Valley regions, and well below average or below average in Florida. And finally, for snowfall, again, no changes. I think well below average in the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. Keep in mind that just one snowstorm can really make or break a winter snow season for the Carolinas and Virginia. But I think in general, the pattern this winter will be very unfavorable for snow once we get past the first 2 weeks of December, unless we see a stratospheric warming event or a significant weakening of the polar vortex. The main hotline or hotbeds for snow this winter is going to be in Minnesota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, Wisconsin, then the Pacific Northwest states of Idaho, Washington, Oregon, and even northern Nevada and Utah. And then in these areas in between the purple and light blue, so talking about states like northern Colorado, most of Utah, Montana, North Dakota, Wyoming, Oregon, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Indiana, western portions of Kentucky. I think you will be seeing, in general, 100 to 125% of snowfall, so slightly above average conditions. And then in these regions right here, I'm not really, it's mostly equal chances. And then, of course, as you go further south, these areas really don't see much snow at all. But I think in general, the biggest anomaly areas are going to be the Mid-Atlantic and in coastal regions of the Northeast, where I think you could have well below average snowfall. And then in these purple bands right here, where I think you could have above to well above average snowfall for this winter. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Again, nothing much really changing, but I just wanted to show you that I think that cooler risk might extend just a bit further to the southeast into the Midwest. And also, I think the first 2 weeks of December could run quite wintry and cold for areas east of the Mississippi. So that's it, guys. I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving and happy Christmas and holidays, and stay safe out there. Have a nice day and see you next time.